Welcome everybody. I'm Colleen Murphy-Dunning, and I am the director of a program called the Urban Resources Initiative. And it's my privilege to host today Dr. Thomas Easley from the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies. Before we begin with Dr. Easley, I want to explain this is our second session in our weekly series. And so I know some of you maybe were not on last week's call, so I want to explain the format. First, Dr. Easley will give about a 10 or 15 minute presentation. So I'm going to ask now at the start of our session that everyone puts their microphones on mute. And then after Dr. Easley finishes, we will open up the session for your questions, and you could choose whether you'd like to use the chat function, and you can start even posing questions that you have even when Dr. Easley is presenting. So at the end, we can facilitate that kind of question and answer with questions you've put up on the chat, or you should also feel really comfortable and free to turn off your microphone and just ask the question directly. So that is the format, it's really a pleasure to have Dr. Thomas Easley do this with us. I am really excited for our session. So Thomas, I'm going to turn on my mute and encourage everybody else to do that, and we'll pass it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. I appreciate you. And it's always great to do anything with or for Colleen. She's a friend first and a colleague second, so I appreciate you. Okay, so welcome everyone. Like I said, thank you. I'm doing this for my friends, so I'm gonna put it on, Colleen. So I want to play something for you, all right, and then I'll recite it back, and I'll share my screen so we can look through the lyrics. Okay. There's gonna be one little choice word, not too bad, but I'm going to explain why it's there, because I wrote this with young people. I wrote this with middle schoolers about 3 years ago. Okay, so we call it All Eyes on We, and I'm the one controlling it. I'm the DJ. My apologies. Here we go. Me and Shaw back in the studio, great minds together, here we go too. Southern black jets on the road against free. 3, 2, 1. Here is my minority report about what's going on with the poor. No clean water, got liquor stores. No things good, housing can't afford. Got drugs, got guns, got wars. No boys, no books, gym floors. Dead pools can't swim and live my pores. Contaminated mentally challenged, I'm sore. Getting scholarships, but my body earns scores. I want to use my mind and explore. Crooked ass cops scared at my door. Say I resemble this dude that shot 4. I don't own a gun, but I am at war. Praying about who coming after the 44. President evidence, there won't be no more. No, black for a while, not expecting support. Me and Shaw back in the studio, one. Great minds together, here we go too. Southern black jets on the road against great. All right, okay. Correction. I said who's coming after the 44th. That means we actually wrote this before 2015. What am I talking about? Sorry about that. So it's a little history there. Maybe I'm aging backwards. But anyway, so the name of that song is called All Eyes on We. It's on a buddy of mine's mixtape, so it's not technically my song, but it is my verse. And so what I'd like to do is share my screen with you. So I'm gonna pull up my slideshow first. Okay, and then and hopefully you all will be able to see it. And what I do is I do a share screen here. Share my screen. Oh, host disabled participant. Okay. Well, it's all right. It's all right. So what I'll do, it's okay. What I can do is I can read the lyrics to you. But I can explain, what they are. So what you just heard is me saying, here is my minority report about what's going on with the poor. No clean water, got liquor stores. No banks, good housing can't afford. Got drugs, got guns, got more. Dope boys, no books, gym floors. Dead pool, can't swim, lead in my pores. Contaminated, mentally challenged, I'm sore. Get scholarships, but my body earns scores. I want to use my mind, then dig, explore. But cricket scared cops stand at my door. Say I resemble this dude that shot 4. I don't own a gun, but I am at war. Praying about who coming after the 44th. President evidence there won't be no more. Black folk for a while not expecting support. Okay, so now, if you don't mind, I'll go, like back through the line. Wait a minute, I see a head shake. Does that mean I can share the screen? Try. I can try again real quick. No, it still says, okay, it's cool. No problem at all. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to take you back through each one of those lines, because what it was is that I was doing some work with middle schoolers. We had a program called Neighborhood Ecology Corps. What we wanted to do was we wanted to work with young people and help them become their own neighborhood ecologists. Because the whole, the entire premise of the program at first was no heroes or sheroes are coming to save us. So we have to save ourselves, okay? And so we wanted to teach these young people where the water came from, which is not from a faucet. We wanted to teach them where the trees came from, and it wasn't just from growing, like in the ground or like in the median. We wanted them to know where seeds came from. We wanted them to know the function of the trees. And then we wanted them to also understand that they can impact this. So much so, the program worked so well, okay, that the students' grades started going higher, because now they could apply the science and the math to what they were learning to what they were doing in school. Number two, they started understanding the impact that the environment had on them and what they had on the environment. So I worked with the program for 3 years, from 2015 to 2018. The first year they planted trees. Once they learned where the trees came from, they said, we want to plant our own trees. The second year, they planted a community garden. They said, we want to feed our elders. And this is in Southeast Raleigh, by the way, Raleigh, North Carolina. And then third, they went and challenged the legislature, got in their face and let them know, you're not doing what you can to protect our community. And since we understand that as African Americans, we were forced through redlining to live in the floodplain, we feel like our government owes us something. Can you imagine hearing 11, 12, and 13-year-olds telling 50 and 60 and 70-year-olds that, and they can't do anything but sit there and listen to them? Because we also come from a culture where a child is to be seen and not heard, and I don't agree with that. And we wanted to make sure that these children understood that you can use your voice. And as a matter of fact, if you look in the civil rights movement, the youth in particular were a big push around why things changed. My mom got arrested at age 14, fighting for the right to vote, missing for 2 weeks. So, so children, youth have always been a lot of the backbone, of movements, but not just children and youth. I want to say something else. Women have always been the backbone of movements. So we definitely want to respect our mothers, our grandmothers, our sisters, of course, our fathers and our brothers, but our children. Okay, and we wanted the young people to understand that we understood that, and we needed them to understand it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through that rhyme, because what I said is, look, young people, I want y'all to help me put a song together, because they knew that I was a hip hop artist. And I said, but we're going to put it together in a way that shows your relationship to your environment. Now, as a forester, which I am, I think about environment. I think trees. I think animals. I think soil. I think water. I think air. I think all of those cool things about the forest. But if you've never been to that forest, because you can also say an urban forest, if you haven't been to what we could say is traditional forest, or a natural forest, we want you to see your relationship to where you were living right now. And the one thing that we did not want to do is that we didn't want to appreciate that, Chris, is that we didn't want to remove people from their environment without showing them the beauty at home. Because the point isn't for you to leave home. The point is for you to protect and save and improve home, right? Because home is what raised you. And if you understand that you're an amazing person and that your guardians or parents or grandparents or protectors are great people, then things that we need to make this environment better and greater for more people. So I was like, we're going to write a song about what you are experiencing. So this is why they actually helped me come up with the first thing. Here is my minority report. Okay, now let me say something about that first line. There's nothing minority about us except for, let's say, being young, but I don't want to say being young is minor. I don't mean it like that, but, young people, you could be in the minority with low numbers or a younger age, but you are not minor. There's nothing minor about you. So I don't use that word minorities. I just use it in that song, but I don't use that word minorities to describe women, people of color, people who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, queer, transgender. No, there's nothing minor about us. As a matter of fact, there's more of us around the world anyway. But just to keep going, here is my minority report. Okay, so I'm about to report on what's happening in our community, about what's going on with the poor. Okay, so we all identify as being poor, being that we may have less or just enough resources to live or to survive. So we wanted people to understand what that was, even though where some may feel financially poor, we are not culturally poor. We are not brilliantly poor. we are not courageously poor. You know, but money is a resource, and it's sad that that's the only major resource that people fight over. So we wanted to teach the young people about other resources, not just money. No clean water got liquor stores. Trust me, water is way worth more than money. No clean water got liquor stores. But when they looked around the corner, that's what we saw. You know, we were like, well, we got a lot of liquor stores. Yeah. No banks good housing can't afford. So what I wanted the young people to start doing, and what they started realizing, is our environment isn't actually necessarily our fault. Like, no, it's not. So when people try to tell you, oh, why don't you make better choices and go to different stores and make better choices about foods and make different choices about that, we wanted them to be able to go, well, wait a minute, what's in our community and who put it here? Because we didn't put it here, right? So then that's why you go to the next line. Got drugs, got guns, got more. Drugs, guns, more. Dope boys, no books, gym floors. Because I wanted the children to understand it's a system. See, it's not just we're menaces to society and we're drug dealers. No. A lot of times what we're trying to do is we're trying to survive and take care of our family. And so we do the things that at least either make sense or the closest thing to us. Okay, I'm not advocating doing bad things or hurting, but I'm trying to get you to understand the mindset, okay, that people have. And I said, dead pool can't swim, lead in my pores. Do you have pools in our community? Probably not. And then if you do, the water's probably contaminated. That's why I said, dead pool can't swim, lead in my pores. And a lot of times in our community, there's lead in the water. And when you have a huge amount of it before the age of 8, it actually impacts your thought process, your cognitive abilities. There's research that even shows, like, I don't like to say school to prison pipeline because, you know, I think that creates a poor narrative, but you can tell by what people are exposed to and even how their decision making is being impacted when they're young, that some people can almost say, we can almost project that this person might end up incarcerated. Okay, not just because of poor decision making, but because of bad access to poor resources that can hurt the body. Next line, contaminated, mentally challenged, I'm sore. So lead in water can lead to mental challenges. Contaminated, mentally challenged, I'm sore. But watch this, the next line, get scholarships, but my body earns scores. So we really good athletes, don't we? You know, I always encourage people to think about why is it that LeBron James can play basketball so well? You know, yes, he's a consummate athlete and he has great skill, but man, I wonder what would have happened if there would have been, like, you know, a strong library there in his community for him to go and study and read books, you know, and to dig deeper into science and dig deeper into English and math. Because if you look at our ancestors, and I'm talking about more than 10,000 years ago, it was, you know, math came from Africa, science came from Africa. Imhotep was the first known doctor. So, you know, for us to be the best seen known athletes right now, that's great, but there's something missing, okay, if that's the only thing that you see about us. Then I say, get scholarships, but my body earns scores. Because I played football too, so, you know, I'm just saying. I want to use my mind and explore. So I'm saying that a lot of times we're responding to our resources, what we're exposed to. Then I said, but cricket scared cops standing at my door. Say I resemble this dude that shot 4. See, when I grew up, that was my experience, being harassed by cops. And I'm like, we aren't doing anything. We're just sitting here on our porch or sitting here on the corner, just walking around, and then they go, you look guilty. You know, and I'm like, and it would hurt my feelings because every blue uniform was always guilty to me growing up. I'm like, oh, wow, I look guilty. Well, you're about to do something that makes you guilty. You know, say I resemble this dude that shot 4. I haven't done anything. Then the next line, I don't own a gun, but I am at war. It's almost like, hey, you the one with the gun and the protection, but I'm the one that's in danger who's done nothing. So who are you protecting and serving? And then I said, praying about who came after the 40, praying about who's coming after the 44th. At that time, we didn't know if it was going to be Trump or if it was going to be Clinton. But one thing that we knew, I said, president evidence there won't be no more black folk for a while, not expecting support. We knew we weren't going to see a person of color in the office this next go around. We knew that. And so that's what that 16 is about now. That's about more than the environment, obviously, if you're thinking forestry, trees, soil, but that is about community, and community is environment. And so we wanted the young people to understand what they were up against, okay? Not for the sake of feeling shame. No, because your ancestors before you overcame this. And if your grandparents are still here, there's your brilliance right there. They done figured out how to live in a world that wasn't even
constructed for them. So that tells you that you come from brilliant people. Okay, you come from geniuses, right? They just won't call it that, but that is what it is. It's not just passion, it's intelligence. Because if you put some other people in those kind of circumstances, they'll fall apart. So that should tell you something. And so what I want to say is that our relationship to the environment, I feel, should be that we are the environment is us. And so if we're not caring for the environment, right, then just think about what's going on right now, whether we're talking about climate change or even with the coronavirus. There's so many things that are happening in our world. And I think that if we treated each other the same way that we're advocating that we treat the environment, or the same way that we understand the environment provides resources to us, this will probably be a different world. So young people, you have the opportunity to change. You are the change that we've been looking for, but we also have to do the change ourselves. So we can't put it all on you, because we're still here too. So we have to be a family and a community about it. And so with that, I'll, let me just take a step back. You just got a little bit of hip hop, got a little bit of forestry, got a little bit of community building. I don't think I snuck a joke in there, so you haven't definitely got comedy, but you definitely got something real. So let me just hit pause and check in with my leader, Colleen, make sure I'm good with time. Are we good? I can pause and see about questions and stuff, or,
Thomas, I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to figure out while you were speaking how to enable the screen sharing. So I'm sorry we couldn't see the words on that you were hoping to share, but glad that we could at least hear you and see you. So we're right on schedule, and I am glad to welcome everyone's participation and open up the conversation, and particularly if our teachers on the call also want to help direct any kind of engagement of your students particularly, I'm happy to kind of pass the facilitation to both of you to help involve your students, but also welcome others who are on the call to either send us a notice through the group chat, or to just open your mics up. And if you feel like you want to raise hands, we could do it like we can see you if you want to raise hands this way, or if you want to use in the group chat, there's a way to raise hands if folks know how to do that.
And Colleen, I actually apologize. I could have put the lyrics in the group chat, so I just did that.
Oh, awesome. That's smart.
They can read them now. They can read the bars. After here's the rhyme, that's what I just finished. That's what I just finished spitting right there.
That's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any questions? Oh, I see a hand.
Hi, Leslie.
Good morning, everyone, and I thank you so much for providing this platform. I just want to say to Thomas, I really appreciate the bars that you just presented. You had said something in it that brought me back to a young man. Well, he's not a young man anymore. He's 50 years old, my son. And when I took him to an apple orchard, I think it might have been a school trip or something that I chaperoned. And he just sat there staring at the tree. And he asked the question that I probably could have been embarrassed about. But he asked, how do they get the apples out of the bag onto the tree? I mean, that floored me. That floored me, at first, just because of, what it is he said. And that is, that. I mean, that's a perception that a lot of our children have. I've been blessed to be able to coordinate a community garden in our neighborhood, and it's primarily because of the children. And to have, kids actually put their hands in the dirt, being allowed to play in the dirt without getting in trouble for being dirty. And creating, as far as they're concerned, they just created this, having never eaten a cherry or a golden tomato, but being able to grow it and then pull it off the vine and eat it and say, this is really good. Not only is it good, but I grew this, and be able to take that home, and say, Mommy, look, I grew this, and it's just, we might not be able to offer them a lot, depending on our resources, but if we can just offer them not only, you know, a little bit of the earth, but a little bit of ourselves. It goes so far.
Yes, ma'am. You made me think about my grandparents. My first exposure to the outdoors was my grandma and my granddad. I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, so it's the biggest city, urban setting in the state of Alabama. But I didn't know that because my food was outside, and I got hungry. Now I was a chubby kid. I was like 300 pounds most of my life until my mid-20s. So I didn't start losing weight until about 20 years ago. But you know, my grandma, she loved me just as much as she fed me. And you know, and at times when I would want to eat something, she'd like, go outside and pick something, baby. And I go out and get squash, you know. So you know, so I learned how to till the ground watching them. And they would never use scientific terms. It was just, they would use terms to describe literally what you're doing, like turning the soil. You know, we're getting ready to do this. We didn't use $10 words. We didn't waste our breath. Yes, and so I got to understand exactly what was going on outside. And then when I got older and started working with young people, I was just so glad that I still had what my grandparents gave me, you know, to now teach them. I'm actually going to garden in the back now. You know, I hadn't done it, and now I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do this. But I don't think that my grandparents, in my opinion, I knew they knew what they were doing in teaching me, but I don't think they actually fully knew what they were doing, which was preparing me to do the kind of things that I'm doing now, and to say that they taught me this. And I taught my grandma how to read. You know, so here I am, a kid teaching her how to read, but here she is, an elder teaching me how to protect, save the earth, and feed myself. You know, and so you know, she sent me to school, you know, but I still think that her house was the best school that I ever had. Everything I learned in my grandparents' house outweighs every degree that I've ever earned. Every degree, every lived experience, nothing. I still have not learned. I mean, I've learned a lot. Don't get me wrong, I'm still learning, but nothing still exceeds the knowledge I got before the age of 8. Still, I'm 41. Just want to say that. So thank you for doing what you did and explaining that and sharing that story. Because like I said, that's real wealth. See, that's the truth. You know, they'll have us think we don't have much to give, but no. I can grow my own food now. Me growing my food is worth way more than taxes. That's right. So, you know, thank you for what you did.
Thank you.
I want to forget if our elder shared with us. Oh, all right. Yes, thank you. Time we have. Yes, it's a project for the stepdaughter. My stepdaughter. It's definitely a project. She getting into the gardening and everything. So it's something that young people can get in. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you someone to look up if you ever have time. Look up Ron Finley, Finley. Yeah, he's on YouTube. He's known as the Guerrilla Gardener because he's a former gangster, you know, turned, you know, gardener, take care of his community. And I love how he talks, because he talks like, you know, where he from, you know, and he'll be like, you know how people say kids don't eat kale? He said, well, I figured something out. If they plant kale and grow kale, they'll eat kale. So that's why I appreciate, the only vegetables I didn't eat growing up were the ones I didn't know where they came from. My grandma figured that out. She was like, oh, he don't want to eat that broccoli because he don't know where, you know, we're going to plant some in the back now, so we're going to see. Because whatever I didn't see, and isn't that interesting? That I didn't want to eat where I didn't know where it came from. That's probably why a lot of kids, you know, young people, you growing up, you don't want to eat because you don't know what it is. But if you teach them, you couldn't get me to stop eating Brussels sprouts. And I'm getting hungry right now thinking about it. Ms. Leslie, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. That's question, Colleen. Let me stop. Yep, ronfinley.com. That's it. And he has a TED Talk too. That's how I stumbled onto him at first. You know, he has a TED Talk. But yep, ronfinley.com.
That's awesome. Chris and Marlene, can I invite you to, is there a way we can engage your students in any questions they might have?
I'm going to pass it over to you, Marlene, because I don't see any of my youth in.
It's out there. If anyone has a question, you can ask. I was going to share some. Okay, am I on now?
Your microphone's on. Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to share with Dr. Easley is that I grew up in New Haven, And as an adult, once I became an adult and I started having children, I started seeing in the lyrics was guns, drugs in our neighborhood, the violence and stuff that came in the neighborhood. And I moved my children south. And here I was in New Haven, grew up in New Haven. I ran track in New Haven, so all I knew was New Haven, Hartford, and Bridgeport. And those were the only area, the cities that I knew in New Haven, and I only knew those areas.
Is it me or did Ms. Crackle look silent?
Marlene, we just lost you for a minute. You froze up, so we're not hearing you.
And then later on, I was able to see down there, and I'm like, okay, why not move here? I could have went to Enfield. I could have went to these places. I could have went to other places with my children where there was less violence and less drugs, and brought them up in those areas versus going 12 miles to North Carolina. And so in North Carolina, I made it my mission, my goal, because I noticed that I was in a rural area in North Carolina, and all they knew was that area. They didn't know 20 miles away. And so according to our county, another county that was neighboring our county, they had no idea. They had no idea that county did this. I made it my goal and mission to actually incorporate a program that we use from from 8th grade to 9th grade, transitional program. And every spring break, I said, we're going somewhere. So it was New York, and we were going. I wanted them to see that there's something outside of this hub here that's out there, so you have something to work for. You can go to college and get your education and bring it back here. Now, the other thing is where I was at, there was a lot of farming and a lot of what we call mills. And so even when I went down, I said, well, until I went down in April. So I said, well, until I can land a teaching job, I have to do something. I went into a mill where I was wearing socks and making socks and zip and putting the tags in them and looking to make production. And then I looked at that also, and I said, this is all we know in this area, and we gotta do something as far as broadening the horizon. And one of the things was, it was around the time that the Twin Towers was hit. And we had just did the trip to New York for that. So they had the exposure of New York. And then when 9/11 came, I felt so good because I was like, my kids could say, I was there. But that's something that you were just saying is what we need. It's what we need is we need to let them know that this is your neighborhood, but how could you get back to this neighborhood if you're not going out to get it here, so that you could come back and give to the neighborhood. I also teach that I teach biochem, I'm in biology, but I love environmental science. And I like to look at what's out there in nature and let the kids know that just doing little things right here that's given to us, this earthly thing that's given to us, how can we make it work for us? Because with the coronavirus and things out here right now, this is something that is bigger than us, but it's where science can come in and try to figure out what's going on through us hypothesizing different events. But I want to say that in New Haven, because of your lyrics, what I'm hearing in your lyrics, and sitting in New Haven, That was all I knew was New Haven, Hartford, Bridgeport. Otherwise, I would have moved my kids here and never left. I would have stayed here in Connecticut. I would have never left, but I probably needed to be there for the children there that I had to touch.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you. I thank you so much for sharing.
No, I definitely appreciate you sharing, you know, your story in that path and talking about New Haven and talking about North Carolina. You know, I love both places. New Haven. Now I actually have family in New Haven that migrated from Pine Grove, Alabama, and then I have family in North Carolina. You know, and if you look at some history where African Americans were, a lot of us came into South Carolina anyway, in North Carolina, and then went into other places. You know, people, you know, look at, you know, the transatlantic slave trade and history around that. But I wanted to say something around getting into the environmental field in particular, because I didn't know about the environmental field growing up. As a young person, we were, you know, pushed to go into law, go to the medical field or something like that. And you know what? I just realized I've got these headphones on. It's not plugged into the computer. Stop playing. And so right before I went off to school, and I'll admit I made a couple of, you know, bad decisions in high school. You know, you're trying to get love or trying to get attention and stuff, and it kind of put me on a different path. And you have great institutions, you know, like Yale, for those who are there, you know, in New Haven, you know, and call those, you know, Ivy League schools. They're the first, you know, they've been around for hundreds of years. And you have schools like the one that I actually went to called Alabama A&M, which is known as a historical Black college and university, HBCU. And we still to this day put out the most Black foresters in the country. So I'm putting that out for y'all to think about that, because where I went to school, we also definitely, you know, support students and have scholarships, but we have a forestry program and accredited, and the national accredited program at Alabama Agricultural and Mechanical University. So it's one of the things that I also promote, you know, is that people, you know, go, you know, like where you can afford, or go, you know, where your heart, you know, sends you, or go where you feel safe. And I'm glad that I went to Alabama A&M, and that's how I got into the environmental field. Going to Alabama A&M exposed me to the U.S. Forest Service. And that's who I ended up working for after. So I ended up working for the federal government, and that was you know, it was a challenging and rewarding experience. But I started into forestry because I love science. I love genetics. Okay, so I'm saying this because there are a number of us out here who like math and who like science, and then you get to a certain point in your life, and if you experience a little difficulty in math, then they start telling that lie to you, or sometimes your teachers may say it too, like you can't do math or you're not good in science and math. Let me tell you something. The one discipline that's universal around the world is math. So learn to love math. Okay, and then you can also have a positive impact on science. Anyone says I can't do math, I say stop telling that lie. Okay, I don't believe that. I actually don't even want to hear it. And they say that I can't do science. I'm like, well, then you better go and read some more, because it seems like that's what, you know, that is what we need to do. Your ancestors created this field. They created it. Okay, other people are now talking and working it and putting degrees behind it, but your ancestors created this. So it would behoove you to learn it and to become good at it. And that's how they taught me at Alabama A&M. They're like, no, we don't take that lie and use it as an excuse. We turn that around. We're going to work hard. And so genetics is what directed me into forestry. And I had to learn traditional or production forestry first. So I learned that, and then I got my master's in genetics. And then I went back to Alabama. See, that's the other thing. You know, you go to these other places. I went to Iowa State. So I went from Montana to Iowa State, but I went back to Alabama. That's why I push people to go back, you know, like to your home, you know, and help to make it better. And then, and I still go back home to Alabama. Not right now, but when this clears up, I will be going back. You know, I go back at least a few times a year to go work with young people, as well as work with elders, especially those who own land. Because some of our people still own land, and particularly in the Southeast. So so I also want to encourage people to get involved in this discipline called forestry, or get involved in environmental science, and get involved in it from a couple of ways. You can get involved with it like I did on the federal side. You can get involved with it on the corporate side. You can get involved with it on the private side. I'll go ahead and tell you the money, private and corporate side. You know, benefits, federal government side. Fun and exploring, going deeper, the academic side, you know. So I definitely love working at a university where we can go waist, head deep, heart deep, you know, as far as you want. And then you yourself can become a player in this field and make it better for yourself, for your families, you know, for your community. And when I say community, I don't just mean black, I don't just mean brown. I mean those who I live near. I'm talking about the human community. But it starts with you. Okay, let me just see it right.
So Thomas, can I interject that we have a question here that's really for all of us to think about. How do we have from Chris Williams about how we change schools so these topics and other stuff that matters is what happens for our youth? I wonder if anyone wants to respond to that.
Repeat the question, Colleen.
How do we change schools so these topics is what happens for our youth? You know, the stuff that we're talking about now, how does this get more in part of what we teach at schools?
If any of my students want to respond to that?
Can I respond to it?
Please.
I'm a student from Mr. Williams' class. I just think that if teachers try to do more hands-on learning, like when kids can go outside and we can do planting and stuff, it really helps. Like Mr. Williams, I remember he took us outside one day to plant some flowers outside that'll be there the whole time we're at Metro, that'll sprout up every year. And I enjoyed doing that because it made me feel like I wasn't just learning something just to learn it. Like I actually got to hands-on work and do what I was learning about.
Like that.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I appreciate that, Antonia. Thank you for the feedback. It's wonderful. And your plants that you guys started in the room are doing really well on my windowsill here. I wish you could eat some of them. We got some collard greens coming up. We got some pak choy. I've been nibbling on them.
Oh, man.
And I just want to add one bit about this. You know, I as we struggle through this catastrophe, at the same time, I've got the privilege and the luxury to be thinking more about school. That's why I put the question out there. I really think it's something that moving forward, after we get through this nightmare, that we really need to think a lot about. Because I've learned a lot about you, Antonia, and all of other students by this experience. And I think feeding forward, this can mean some good changes for the school if we're brave enough to embrace.
Yeah, I think just Chris, I appreciate that sentiment. I know this is it's a really awful time in New Haven and around the world, but hopefully there will be some silver linings that we all learn and take away from this experience to make us stronger going forward.
Mm-hmm.
We are really nearly at the end of our time, and I wonder if there's any kind of last questions or last comments. I know next week everyone has the week off for public school break, which is probably something we all feel like we really need to have a rest from Zoom calls and schoolwork and everything else. So we will resume the week after with a talk from another Yale expert. His name is Joe Orfici, and he'll talk about agriculture and forestry. So I've seen him via iPhone or from his cell phone out with his cows. So I think it'll be a little bit of a different format than this week. But does anyone have any last question for Thomas or last comment? Well, if not, I just want to ask you all to help me. Thank you, Thomas, so much for sharing your beautiful words and wisdom. I'm so appreciative of you and for you joining us today.
Thank you all for having me. You all have a great day. And like I said, don't let this. The only thing that this should help us do is tighten up and treat each other better. But don't let what's going on change who we are on the inside, because who we are on the inside is caring for each other and seeing the best out of each other as well as ourselves. So I do hope that this just allows a little bit more humility, patience, grounding, and of course, you know, better habits. You know, I hope that comes out of this.
Yeah, well said. We hope so too, Thomas. Thank you all.
All right, y'all take care.
Take care now.
Thank you.
All right.